Hi, everyone, and it's Candace Craw-Goldman from quantumhealers.com, back again with the question of the week. The question is, why does BQH focus on intention? And I have a great story to share with you, and here it goes. So it comes straight from my very first year, actually my very first couple months of practicing QHHT back in 2008. I met this man named Greg, and he was an amazing very kind man, and he came to see me, and we did a session, a past life regression session. It wasn't even called QHHT back then. And we did a past life regression session. And when I read Dolores' script and we went through all of the things that you're supposed to do, we got to the part where he was supposed to begin having his experience and telling me what was going on. And he had nothing to say. He had absolutely nothing to say. And I was so new doing this method, and all of the other sessions I had done were so incredible and so amazing. I really didn't know what was going on, how to help. I did what I thought I knew how to do at the time. I made suggestions. I tried different approaches. I didn't know a whole lot of different things to do at that time, but I did give it a shot. And in the end, he just kind of sat up and he looked at me. And I was completely bewildered. I had no experience of something not working. I had no experience of what to do when anything like that would happen. And yet he was very kind. And I remember walking out to the car with him because he was just sort of done, right? He was done. He was going to go back out to the car. And I was still in my practice mode, meaning I wasn't taking any money from him at all. I didn't ask for a fee. I was still practicing. And I'm just standing there in the driveway, and I remember he was so kind. He kind of had his arm out the window and he was talking to me. And I said, Greg, would you come back? I'm going to go see Dolores, for the level 2 class, which back then was one day of asking Dolores questions. And I was going to ask, or I was going to try calling the office or something. I was going to find out what was going on, what I could have done, any of those things. I said, would you come back? I'm going to try to find out what happened and why this didn't work. And he was so sweet. And at that moment, you know what he did? Actually, I'd almost forgotten this till I'm telling this story. He actually reached over to his wallet. He opened up his wallet. And he pulled out a $100 bill and he handed it to me. And I said, I wasn't charging anything right now. I'm in the practice mode and I can't take that. And he was like, no, you should take that. And I'm standing there and he's talking to me. And I said, well, I just don't understand what happened. I don't understand why nothing happened. And this is when Greg gave me this amazing gift. He said, I never had any intention of having a past life regression session. The real reason I came here to do this was to meet you, to vet you, to see what this process was like, how you would treat me, what it was all about, because the person who really needs the session is my 19-year-old son. And I was floored. I mean, I probably stood there with my mouth hanging open. And we had the conversation just like that, just standing, me standing in the driveway and him in his car. And he'd already sort of alluded to this in his interview portion of the time we had spent together. But his son truly believed and had been telling his father that he believed that he'd been having ET experiences. He believed he'd actually had been taken up into a craft. And he was a socially shy young man. He was having difficulty accepting, explaining, and putting it into perspective, these things that were happening to him. And that's kind of a story for another day, what happened in the young son's session, which subsequently happened in the ensuing weeks. Suffice it to say, it was an amazing session that is so memorable. I still think about it today. But I'm going back to the intention part. So Greg came to have the session with me, fully intending to find out who I was, what this was all about, and if I was good enough, safe enough, and the appropriate practitioner to see for his son. That's what his intention was. Okay, so that is, but believe it or not, that's only one portion of why BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing, now includes an intention portion of the session of the modality. And here's the other side of that, and that is the practitioner's intention. Now, it took me a little while. I was kind of naive when I first started this work. And I thought anybody who would go into this work, the intention to become a practitioner and do this work would be to help people. That's what Dolores was there for, to discover knowledge, to help people. Well, I didn't have to be involved too terribly long, especially supporting Dolores Cannon's students, with people coming and going and interacting in the support forum, that I started to find out, and people started to tell each other on the forum, sometimes what their real intention of being a practitioner was. And you might be going, well, what could that be? Oh, well, here you go. There are some of these people who became practitioners because they kind of wanted to be another Dolores, right? They wanted to be able to write books. They wanted to have the attention and the fame and the notoriety that Dolores deservedly was receiving, most of her adult life doing this work. They wanted that. That's just one, let's just say off base, maybe. I was going to say offhand, but no, off base reason to be a practitioner. Really, the only reason you would ever want to be a practitioner is, or that you ever should, in my opinion, is to help other people. But not all practitioners are like that. Happily, most are. As a matter of fact, almost all are. But there are a few who get into this work for completely different reasons. And here's another reason. There are some practitioners that I have known, or let's just say run across, because I try to stay away from these people for sure. There's some practitioners who go into this work because they're looking for a really great subject. Somebody, and what do I mean by that? Same thing Dolores used to mean, and when she talked about it. They're looking for somebody who would go deep, deep into the somnambulistic state and be able to gather information on anything or anyone for any reason. So I just thought of them as an information source. And the sad thing about that is some of that didn't always come out in these sessions until the very last part. Okay, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is somebody who has a session with somebody, somebody goes as a client to see a practitioner, has an excellent session, maybe all of the things were addressed, and then somewhere towards the end, before the session ends, especially if the information has been profound or strong, or it seems like they have a good connection, the practitioner sitting there, and again, this is quite rare, but it's unsavory, and I'm sorry to have to talk about it, but it's something you all out there should be aware of. If that practitioner begins to ask their own questions that the client didn't discuss, questions that the client didn't bring, things that had nothing to do with them, they're overstepping their boundaries. This is not to happen in a session. And if they start asking, especially if the practitioner starts asking questions about their own personal life, meaning the practitioner's personal life, I actually can recall a story of somebody telling me that within their session, at the very end, the practitioner was asking the SC through the client about divorce proceedings that they were personally having with their partner, which of course is completely unacceptable. So anyway, so let's talk about the good part of the intention and BQH. Talking about the reason for the session for the client really hones in on what's the real reason they're there. It really pinpoints it, and it helps both the person and the practitioner kind of come together on the same page. But it's more than that. We get the practitioner on board with the intention because we bring the practitioner's energy into that, during what we call in BQH the water ceremony, the BQH water alchemy portion of the session. And that little ceremony with water and the intention, setting the intention, and then both of them drink the water and they set forth into motion the real reason, the real intention they are there for the session. Could a practitioner lie? Sure. But this sort of brings it into the energetic space where you are stating out loud that the intention, meaning you as the practitioner, is to join this person, your client, in fulfilling what their real intention for having a quantum healing session is. So I hope that answers the question about why the intention portion of a BQH session is important, how and why it was created. And I want to thank Greg, if he ever is even watching this after all these years. I'm not even really sure he practices the method anymore. Did I say that before? He went on to go learn QHHT and was part of our community for a little while, as I can remember. But he taught me such a fabulous lesson, you know. So that's the answer for the question of the week. Thanks for watching. Send in your questions. Join us on the forum, or if you're looking for a practitioner of any kind, please visit us at quantumhealers.com.